So we're going to be reading chapter 10 of Dreadnought today. Tonight, dusk, dawn, whatever it is for you right now. So, chapter 10. David doesn't get over it, at least not today. He's sullen and won't talk to me in the halls, and in class he never once looks my way. We used to get warnings all the time for our whispered conversations, but now it's like a brick wall between us. Dude, get over it already so I can tell you about my superpowers, I want to shout at him. Can't we just go back to hanging out? I'm relieved when the final bell rings and we head our separate ways to catch the bus home. I've got a whole lot of homework to catch up on. Even getting my assignments sent home hasn't kept me up with the classes. It sucks because I totally planned to have my superpower practice tonight, but it looks like that I may not have time. When I arrive home, Mom is waiting for me, with her lips pressed thin. Danny, we talked about this. No, you talked at me, I say, as I pull my books out and get ready to start on French. But I decided I didn't agree. Danny, her voice is sharp, and I look up in surprise. Mom is not the one who yells. We are holding on to a thread here. Do you not know that? Everything would be fine if you just let it be. You know that's not true. She glances at the front of the house like she's scared he's going to come home early. Your father is at his wits' end trying to help you. He's in denial. I am a girl. That's not going to change. You don't know that. We might find it won't change because I don't want it to. Mom steps back a little. I thought you understood that. Why would you think that? She asks. Because you bought me those things. Because my throat clenches up and my eyes prickle with tears. Because we had such a nice day out together. Because I felt closer to you that weekend than I ever have before. Because I thought you loved me and could see I was happy now. I have all the things I need to say, but none of the strength to say them. Maybe that was a mistake, she says quietly. I shouldn't have encouraged you. I close my French book, gather my things to take them upstairs. It can't be out here, and I'm not sure I can study right now. Life on estrogen. The highs are higher, and the lows, well, the lows really suck. I'm gonna have to tell him when he gets home, she says to me as I climb the stairs. Go right ahead. He can't hurt me. He'd hurt himself trying. I have homework I need to do. A few hours later, Mount Screamer erupts. Dad practically pounds my door out of the frame before I open it, and it's an hour and a half of some of the worst I have ever seen from him. At first, I think I'm going to stand up to him, that my new strength and resolve will let me laugh off his bellowing, scorn his fury, deliver an unending stream of witty, insightful arguments that will force him to see where he might be wrong. But that's not even close to how it goes. After a few wavering counter-arguments, my resolve collapses. He drags me back down to the living room because that's where he likes to do this kind of thing. He's screaming so loud, so close, I have to fight the urge to wipe my face. He pins me to the couch with the sheer volume of his rage. Once, at one of the hearing tests they give us every few years, they found that my left ear was worse than my right. I told them I didn't know why that would be, but the truth was I knew immediately. It's because when he's like this, I always look away to the right, and he screams the left side of my face. Now, with my improved hearing, heightened to the upper limit of human senses, he is louder and more painful than he has been in years. He tells me I'm stupid, that I'm not thinking big picture, that nobody will respect me while I look like a freak, that he only wants what's best for me, but I'm screwing it all up. He says I've damaged my reputation, that nobody will take me seriously now. He demands to know why I don't have the good sense to be ashamed of what happened to me. But he doesn't wait for an answer before saying I've embarrassed them all. He says I'm pathetic, that I'm delusional, that I'm sick. He suggests I might be a pervert, and that he, generous, caring, and steadfast as he is, might have to fight to keep me off the sex offender list for using the girls' bathroom. He tells me I'm disloyal, that I'm a bad son, that I'm selfish and disgusting. He tells me I'm weak and gross and that I have no moral fiber. He says he's never been so ashamed of me, and that he goes on to emphasize how low that it is, given all the other times I've shamed him. He says all of this at a volume to shake the rafters. When I try to cry, he calls me a sniveling pussy and says he's glad his father is dead, so he never had to see what a failure I am. I suck it up fast, force the tears back as quick as I can, because I know the longer I cry, the worse it will get. Mom doesn't even watch, but that's no surprise. I stopped expecting her to help me years ago. The worst part is that I can't help but believe him. He always has a way of making me believe him. I really am disgusting and pathetic. I can crack the sound barrier, but I can't stand up to this man. If I were worthy of my powers, I wouldn't even flinch. But I'm not. I don't deserve them. I don't deserve anything. I'm crumpling like a cardboard box in the rain. The promise I made myself feels like a sick joke. There's no way I can just decide to not let anyone push me around. God, I was so stupid. I'm always stupid. I always mess it up. I'm a worthless, stupid, disgusting little freak. I start crying again because I realize I still hate myself. Later, I'm curled in bed and trying to keep my sobbing quiet. From past experience, I know that if I cry too loudly, he will slam on my door until I open it so he can start in on me again. The lows are lower. This hurts more than it ever has before. I'm not upset. I am shattered. It's important not to cry too loudly, but it's so hard. The muscles controlling my voice are all so much stronger now. I hear him climbing the stairs and I try to hold my breath, just freeze in bed until he goes away. He calls me a coward through the door and goes back downstairs. After a long moment, I crawl over to my door and make sure it's locked. I turn off my light and head to my closet. I've buried my super suit back there, way in the back, behind a chest of drawers. I don't deserve to have this, but I need it. With shaking hands, I undress and put the suit on. Once I'm safely away, I let my breath out, and the sobs come back. I fly on, get nice and high. Because I have an urge to hide, I head toward a bank of clouds. I find a nice thick one and slip inside. It's cold and wet in here, but it's better than being anywhere someone might see or hear me. Finally, I let it out. I float curled up in the cloud bank and I sob for what feels like hours. My tears leak into my cowl and smear all over across my cheeks, by turns wet and gritty. This hurts so much. Why does it hurt so much? Shouldn't I be used to it by now? Shouldn't I be tough enough to not care anymore? I'm so weak. I am so stupid. Of course this was going to happen. Of course. I deserved this. For being so stupid. For having hope. It's my fault. It's always my fault. I'm empty and floating. The cloud has moved on, but I have stayed where I am, curled up in the air, looking across the sound toward the city. Geese honk as they fly past a little ways off me. It should be safe enough to stay here a while. Normally, after something like this happens, I go to my room, go to sleep quickly, and my parents let me. They won't expect to see or hear from me at home, at least for a few hours, and I seriously considered never going back. In the vacant calm that comes right after a hard crash, I realize I could just fly. Fly away and never come back. The cold doesn't bother me. Hell, being in orbit doesn't bother me. So I don't even need a place to sleep if I can find a comfortable spot in the woods. For food, I can figure something out. Maybe I could get an aerial courier job and just get paid under the table. A passenger jet roars past, approaching the airport. It's only a few hundred yards away, and I realize I've drifted into crowded airspace. I angle away and begin putting distance between me and the landing approach zone. There's a loud crumpling noise, and something like tearing metal. I look back, and the plane's right engine is in the midst of disintegrating. Flames shoot out of the back, and a solid trail of noxious black smoke streams from the engine. As I watch, there's a short whine, and then a loud bang as the engine detonates. I am pretty sure airline engine casings are designed to contain explosions from the engine, but if that's the case, this one must be faulty. The whole rear of the wing gets sprayed with shrapnel, and a long piece of the control flap rips away and goes spinning down into the darkness. The plane groans in agony, tips over to the right, and begins to fall. No, I shout, and without really thinking about it, I'm boosting for speed with everything I've got. I cross 500 yards in a matter of moments. In those moments, the plane has tipped up almost all the way on its side. Its nose is coming down sharply. There's maybe half a mile of altitude to work with here, and the enormous jet is picking up speed as it dives for the black water below us. I get up under and next to the burning wing, meaning to push it back up and help the pilots level out. I throw my shoulder against it. I bounce off. With an icy lurch, I realize I've never pushed anything in midair. I have no idea how. I hit the wing again. I bounce away again. Again. It's not working, and the only thing in my head is that I don't know what I'm doing. The flames are burning hotter now, a trail of smoke growing to a streak of fire. These people have about 40 seconds to live. My hands scrabble at the aluminum, fingers sliding over metal. I get a grip on the engine pylon, try to pull it up, and it slips from my grasp. My heart slams into my chest, and the water is so close. Why am I so stupid? These people are going to die, and it's all my fault. No. Stop. How did I figure out how to fly? I shut my eyes and picture the lattice. There. That's the plane. I get my shoulder against it again, and I imagine pushing, not against the plane, but against the lattice. It's not a matter of shoving it. It's a matter of thrust. With another tortured groan, the jet begins to move with me. The wing is lifting under the steady pressure I'm applying. so slowly. I open my eyes and almost scream. The water is closer than I thought possible. I push harder, and the wing shoots up. Too fast, much too fast. The wing overcorrects, and the jet wobbles up onto its other side. With a desperate heave, I yank it back down, force it into proper alignment. The other engine screams, and the water rushes up to greet us. We're still falling, still nose down. 300 yards and falling. I pop down from the wing, keeping it lifted on my fingertips while I pivot it in place and look at the tail. The control surfaces on the tail are still responding to the pilots. The elevators are all the way up, begging for altitude, and the rudder keeps flicking over to the left to compensate for the missing engine. The noise is coming up, but it's not fast enough. 200 yards and falling. It's not enough. We'll never make it. I was too late because I'm worthless and horrible and can't do anything right. Because, stop it, god damn it. They'll belly flop at 100 miles an hour if I don't do something and do it now. I take a chance. I abandon the wing. At maximum acceleration, I cover the distance from wing to nose in less than half a second. In that half second, they drop another 30 yards. I slam into the jet's nose, right under the forward wheel well, and heave upward with everything I've got. The nose rises. I open my eyes, and I can't stop the wail of fear that escapes me. I can see individual waves now, and we're still falling. 100 yards and falling. 70 yards and falling. 50 yards and falling. 40 yards. 40 yards. 50 yards and climbing. I scream and whoop and holler for joy. I steal a look back under my armpit to see the flames on the wing have gone out. We're going to make it. Ahead, I see the runway, another 2 miles distant and off to the right. I drop away from the plane for a moment, and it continues to rise. The pilots seem to want more space between them and the waters of the Sound before they make the final turn for the runway. When I'm sure the plane won't fall from the sky if I leave the nose, I flit up to the cockpit and tap on the window. It takes a moment for them to notice me, because, honestly, who looks out the windshield of a plane and expects to see a girl there, even in a city like Newport? The pilots break into huge grins when they see me. I point at myself, then back at the wing, then down at the nose, and then shrug theatrically, hoping they understand the question. They trade words, and then one of them points forcefully back at the wing. I nod at them and point to myself, and then back at the wing. They nod back. So I pull away from the cockpit and drop back, letting the plane pass under me. I dip under the wing again and place back behind the engine. I take the load slowly, and as I take more, the wing seems to get heavier as the pilots drop whatever tricks they're used to handle the unequal thrust, so they can focus on lining back up for the final approach. It's a little unsteady, the weight coming and going, until I realize I should probably replicate thrust more than lift. The jet skin screeches when I dig my left hand into the pylon that the engine's charred husk is mounted on. I find a solid feeling bit of aluminum to hold onto and begin to push forward. The metal groans, and there's a thumping from inside the wing. For a moment, I ease up on the pressure, worried I'm damaging the wing even further, but it seems stable enough, and without me pushing the wing, it's beginning to wobble a bit already. A little more gently this time. I push forward against the engine pylon again. We're climbing now, up past 300 yards and slowly beginning to level out. I hear the control surfaces start to shift. The pitch of the remaining engine changes, and the plane begins to tilt over to the right again, but deliberately this time. The wing shifts and flexes against me. We pass over the shore, and the city lights begin to pass under us. There are little popping twangs all up and down the wing. The nose stays level and begins swinging over to the right, bringing us in line for the final approach. The left wing begins to rise, and the load on the right wing shifts again. It starts as a series of pops, like gunshots, one right after another. The wing jerks against me, and then with a groaning shudder, the rest of it simply folds and twists off. It pulls up and away from me, twirls once, and slams into the tail before falling away in a shower of torn aluminum. The plane immediately flops over on its back. There's just enough time for me to experience a bolt of embarrassment before the other wing whips up around to slam into me. It's like getting hit by a city bus, a flat explosion of shock and pain across my face, neck, shoulder, and chest that sends me spinning away. I right myself, and for a heart-stopping instant, I can't see the airliner anywhere. It's just not in the sky with me. I look down, and it's headed for the ground like a javelin. I dive as hard as I can, arms pinned to my side, clawing for every bit of speed I can get. There's no real time to think, just images and instinct. The buildings below us look like matchboxes, and growing fast. I button hook back up under the chin and slam into the forward landing gear like a pile driver. Metal shrieks, and then I'm inside the plane up to my shoulders. The whole jet seems to shudder as I kick the nose up back into the sky. Aluminum knives try to slice me up, and I pull myself from the nose. The airliner is pointed the right way now. We're still following, and the matchboxes are full-size dollhouses now. It won't be a javelin. It'll be a pancake. Below us, people are starting to run. We're close enough that I can see their horror. Flying backwards is something I haven't practiced much, but I can't afford the time it would take to turn around. I jerk myself backwards, arms out, feeling blindly for the place where the plane's body widens out enough to meet the wing roots. That will be the strongest place, the only place this'll work. The jet is landing on a runway if I have to carry the damn thing. The instant I feel the bolt slid past my shoulder blades, I spread my arms and push. Up. Oh God. It's too heavy. Chapter 11. Metal crumples around my shoulders. I fight and kick and push as hard as I can upwards. We're dropping like a rock and barely slowing. 50 yards. The aluminum skim gives way with a shriek, and I crunch 6 inches up into the guts of the plane, my legs dangling free. A huge support strut is pressing into my back. 30 yards. I've stopped breathing. I've stopped blinking. Everything goes to pushing. 10 yards. In my head, I can see the lattice. There's the tangle of the jet, the trailing, unraveling threads of its momentum. Grab it. Grab it all. I can pull, but I'll have to pull it through myself. I pull. Pain rips through every muscle on my back. I cry out in scarlet agony. Pain is everywhere. It fills me, packs every part of me tight. My legs spasm, my fingers go slack. Something loud and wet snaps in my chest, and a lance of fire pierces me. It doesn't stop. It gets worse. I can feel my body breaking, tearing, ripping. What we should have hit by now. I force an eye open, and I see the ground rushing past me and falling away. The final threads of our downward momentum pass through the fingers of my mind, transformed by channeling them through my body to momentum that carries us up and forward. We sail over the signal lights at the end of the runway and begin sinking toward ground once again. Finally, the suffocating pain begins to recede back to something I can think through. There's a sharp grinding somewhere along my flank, and my body is alive with sprains and tears. I grit my teeth and push up forward as hard as I can. The metal around me groans and buckles. Without so much momentum forcing us down, I can delay us long enough to slip over the runway's edge. The landing gear to the left of me unfolds and locks in position, but the nose and right side wheels stay folded up. The plane begins to wobble and tip, balanced imperfectly on a single point, the uneven thrust from the single engine trying to spin the whole thing off me. The runway is zipping beneath us at highway speeds. Just a few more yards. My feet hit the ground with a jarring impact I feel hard in my pelvis. We bounce once, twice, and then I'm running. Great bounding strides that cover a dozen yards at a time, but the steps start to catch up with me. And just before I slip, I set my legs and skid along the ground on my boots. My knees lock, and almost instantly my feet start digging furrows in the concrete. A spray of gravel explodes up, fast and hard enough to dimple and dent all the metal skin around me. It's like getting sand blasted in the face by a machine gun. The airliner's nose pitches up into the air, and the tail slams into the ground. We skid for another 70 yards. My legs clench and tremble, sharp little bolts of jagged ice cutting through the broader ache of everything below my thighs. Finally, we come to a sliding stop. With one last great heave of effort, I let the plane down gently on its right side and scramble out from underneath the fuselage on my hands and knees. I am unspeakably wary. My stomach suggests it might throw up. The pain is everywhere. When I try to get to my feet, I stumble and have to try again. One last effort. I can do this. I fly, wobbly at first, and land on the stubby remains of the right wing. The emergency door comes off quick in my hands, and I hurl it away into the darkness. A terrified man is looking out at me. Leave your bags and get out on the wing, I say. You're going to want to slide off the front. The broken side is too jagged. I leave him and half leap, half fly to the rear emergency door. It's already opening, but the inflatable chute is jammed against the ground with several thousand pounds of air pressure. I pull and drag and shove it until it straightens out enough that people can start using it to jump the 80 feet or so safely to the ground. The front slide is having the same problems, so I fix it too. Then I fly around to the forward exit on the plane's left side, the one that's sort of pointed up at the sky, and rip the door off. A confused flight attendant with a seriously impressive black eye turns to look at me as I enter. Get them out, I say, and push past her toward the cockpit. When I yank the door open, one of the pilots looks up from examining a wound on the other's head. Is there any chance of a fire? I ask. I don't know. It depends. Christ, you're just a kid. What does it depend on? I snap. On fuel leaks and ignition sources. We think the starboard tanks should be empty, but who knows? Is he okay? No. I nod and step in. He moves back to make room, and I undo his co-pilot's seatbelt. An adult isn't a real heavy lift for me anymore, but there's nothing as floppy and awkward as an unconscious human body, so I have a little more trouble than I expected getting him out. Instead of taking up a spot in the line forming to jump down the yellow slide, I hop out to the left, slip back up over the plane, and set him down on ground near where the first evacuated passengers are starting to mill around. If anyone has medical training, please help the pilot here, I shout. Then I dart back to the ruined wing stub, searching the concrete around it for any signs of a leak. I don't see any, and it doesn't seem like anything here is sparking or glowing either. with a sigh of relief that comes all the way up from the root of my spine. I step away from the plane. It's over. Around me, passengers and flight attendants are catching people as they make the short hop out of the plane. Sirens wail as the airport's fire company pounds down the railway toward us. I am just so freaking tired. I stick around, more out of a dazed sense that I need to be on hand if somehow something goes wrong than any particular reason. Someone tugs at my cape. I turn around. It's a kid, maybe just 3 or 4 years younger than me. Thanks, he says. No, no problem. He grabs me around the middle and hugs like he's scared he will fall off. I thought I was going to die, he cries into my chest. Something in my side sends a spike of pain through me, but I force it down. After a moment, I hug him back, and he begins sobbing. I look up, and people are starting to gather around. Dozens of them, bruised, some bleeding, a few clutching arms or limping, but alive. I saved them. I saved them all. Someone starts clapping, and in the next instant, everyone is. Some whistles and cheers, and then I'm getting pounded on the back. My hair is getting rubbed. And crap, I start crying too. Just little clenched lip sobs, but they're there. What's your name? Someone shouts. I don't have one yet. People start shouting suggestions, and mostly they're really stupid, but I laugh. It's okay. Everything is okay. I gently peel the kid off of me and smile him. He's got a grin as wide as the world on his face. Looks almost happy as I feel. Everything is wonderful. And for once, I am happy to be me. Uh, Give me some room. I gotta take off. Don't go, someone shouts. I have homework, I say. And it shouldn't be funny, but people laugh. Gently, slowly, I push myself into the air. There's another burst of applause, and I turn and wave to them as I gain altitude, then pivot away and head for the night. I don't feel so tired anymore. Everything is loose and airy. Bizarrely, I think about how maybe this was a little too close to caping for me to do in throwaway colors, and I consider putting some serious sonic boom distance between me and the scene. But what the hell? I turn back, do a slow orbit of the crash scene, and when enough people are pointing up at me, I give them a fast flyby and a barrel roll. They whoop and cheer, and I take off into the black. I'll leave it at that one. Those were relatively short chapters, but yes. All right. Have a good night, everyone.